Michael Richards goes missing over 20 years ago.
He was into drugs. We've heard lots of stories about what happened to him.
We believe that this was the last road that he was on, kind of like a deathbed confession after mom died, that these letters were found, kind of trying to keep some of this from the family. We're going to bring you into our morning and how the day started right now. Holy moly! That's a steep ramp.
Old Big Bertha, huh?
Yeah, it's a beast, and I'm thinking about not using these big ones anymore, but we are this week.
I told him it was a bad idea, and he's like, "Oh, I got this new boat," and I'm like, These all fueled up? Do you know?
No, I don't know. I don't think they are.
Okay.
And then the other boat, if somebody wants to take it and scan and kind of play around and learn it, you can take the other boat later. So we're going to bring you into a case that Matt Moss and I were working with no cameras a couple months ago. I want to introduce you to Amanda over here, as well as Erica. And we have a case of Michael Richards, who went missing. Kind of bring us into the story and tell us about this case and how long he's been missing, and you know, the letters from Jell to his mom, and whatever you can tell us that's going to put us in the right spot, which is really why we're here today.
Michael was my uncle. We called him Mikey. He was known by Mikey. He went missing in 2003. My mom was very sick at the time. He was into drugs and kind of was hanging out with some bad crowds. So we've heard lots of stories about what happened to him. We know that February 6th was the last day he was seen. His car is also missing. Whatever happened to that, we don't know. We've heard he left on foot, but then how did the car? It's just very confusing. Where he was last seen, there was a raid by the police, and he was said to be that he got away.
And this is where the on foot comes into play. This was down in Woodland, right?
Yes, off Englert Road.
Okay, and so that's when he was last seen by anybody on foot. But then later on, his car is also missing now, so he could have circled back for his car.
I don't believe the car was actually registered to him at the time. It was one of those deals that, you know, they do. So the car would not be registered to him, but the police do know that the transaction of that vehicle was headed towards Mikey's name.
Okay, and last time Matt and I were in the area, we met up with Amanda, and we ended up at the Swift Reservoir, is that what it's called? And right down, just down from there, below the dam, is the Swift Canal, which Pacific Power owns. Now, we had permission, so we thought from a friend of Amanda's, and then turns out that the higher ups caught wind of what was going on as we were in the canal, and we were almost done searching the canal. So as far as we know where we searched, it's clear there was a great big boulder down there. It was not a vehicle. We wanted to shoot up another 200 to 300 yards, but unfortunately we got kicked out of there. Now, there's been some, as far as the news and what the workers were saying, there's a little bit of gray area on whether the canal was actually drained shortly after he went missing, or was the canal drained before? Did we ever get an actual...
It was before.
Okay.
We never got specifics on if it was filled back in before he went missing.
Okay.
So there's still a possibility.
And then there was a campsite also across from Swift Canal that we could not get into. Did you ever return back up there to see if we could get access? Because my understanding is that there's like a cove down below where he could have launched a vehicle off.
A cliff that drops off into a pretty deep area.
Okay. But there's
it's gated up. I still haven't found out who owns the property to get access. Okay. We're actually just talking about that. Okay.
So then let's come back down. So then at the end of the day, we ended up at this boat ramp here. So we've already searched this boat ramp for, we call him Mikey. So we searched for Mikey here. But while we're here and talking to Amanda, on the other side, it sounds like oftentimes to get to his camp, he would take this dirt road over here because of whether he was trying to evade the PD or the local sheriff, that he would take the dirt road over here. My understanding is that this dirt road over here is now washed out.
Yeah, it's got a washout right there, but there's still pavement and everything all the way through.
Okay. And so there's a couple of locations. One is that we have a cove down here, but there's access where the road is closer to the lake down here on the west side. And then we're gonna skip the cove, and then we'll come over here and we'll search this. And this is about a 4 or 5 mile stretch from this location up to the east side of it over here, northeast side.
To where his camp was.
Okay. And his camp, at the northeast side of this is where he would cross over to get to the camp. Okay. And then tell us about the rumors of Beaver Bay, which is a part of this also, just to the northeast of here.
Beaver Bay is actually right off of where the camp was. This road goes up past Beaver Bay.
Okay.
And there's a bridge too that you cross over to either come this way or up to the camp.
Okay.
So that's how Beaver Bay's tied in. It would technically probably be just above Beaver Bay, where the deep spot is up there that they're talking about.
Okay. So the deep spot's up further from the camp that we saw on satellite. So then we come back to this, as you know, we were talking about this, but earlier this morning, is we look at there's all these other rumors. The longer these go on, you have the rumors of, okay, well, he was involved in drugs and there was a drug raid, and, maybe he got tangled up with the wrong crowd. But then we also come back and we say, all right, we know they lived up here, another 5 miles, where the road was right next to the lake over here, a lot of accident locations. And that's what we really want to look at is, let's look at it as an accident, but as you were saying also, maybe he was a little depressed as well. The depression side of it, we tend to veer more towards boat ramps for that. But he also has this road that is right next to the lake that, you know what, I'm just done. I'm not going up to the camp anymore. My understanding is that some of the family, or you feel as though there was kind of like a deathbed confession after mom died, that these letters were found, that she was kind of trying to keep some of this from the family. Can you kind of bring us into that?
Yeah, there was some letters found. Michael's mom died in September of 2024. So we discovered... 23, yes. Yeah. We discovered these letters in her house when we were packing them up, and they were directly from Mikey. Lots of beautiful poems, lots of artwork. He was quite the artist and a poet. And some of those poems did speak of trouble he was in. He clearly had some troubles. And it spoke of, there was one that stuck out to me specifically. It spoke of how we should grieve for him after he dies. And it was just wild to read these letters, and because he's gone. He's been gone for 21 years tomorrow. And to read these letters from the person who's actually missing and how you should grieve for them was just...
So almost like a note, but not directly like, hey, I'm committing.
Yeah, it was very bizarre, those circumstances of how we should grieve for him when he was gone, whether it was foul play or he got in so much trouble he did it himself. Right. We won't know until we recover something, and what we know is that car and him is gone, regardless about the stories that people try and run us around on, but we know something happened and the car's gone, and that's what you guys do, so.
Yeah. Amanda, if we could focus on you just a little bit, because you were his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend at the time, or what was the relationship there?
Love of his life.
Yeah, he was my first boyfriend, first true love. We dated for quite a while, and then he got into drugs. Last time I seen him, I dropped him off at his brother David's house.
And you left him because of the drugs?
Yes, I dropped him off his brother David's house, and I told him I wouldn't have any part of it, but he knew where I was. He knew how to find me or get a hold of me when he was ready for help.
Right.
And he called me about a week before he went missing, asked me to take him up to his camp to get his stuff. He was done. He was gonna go, try and fix his life. I was still mad and hurt. I told him I would, and then changed my mind and didn't. Obviously kicked myself that I never, went and seen him. But
right.
That was the last I heard from him.
Okay. Well, we're going to do everything we can today to find, Mikey. We're looking for the Nissan. It's an older one, long nose, and light blue in color.
For families who have all but given up on finding their loved ones, this team is a last hope. Civilian divers cracking cold cases for free.
I know, right? got a check. Thank you. Got a nice reading there, 11 feet. And this boat ramp we already checked, but just for kicks we'll run it out. That's crazy, it's 20 feet deep this far from shore. Oh, there's a boat ramp there we didn't see last time. Let's check that one out. Wow, 50 feet deep out here. We'll want to double check that because I was turning as we went around that. So we'll go check that. So when it gets deep like this, then we need to adjust the setting. We'll go out to 100 on it. See how far we are from the ramp? It's still 20 feet deep right here.
How deep?
Well, it's 10 feet deep right here, but right over there it was 20.
Really?
It got down to 70 feet over there, 69. Normally what we do with our side scan, we normally shoot 75 feet left and 75 feet right. However, what you're gonna see is we're heading down into deeper water. So normally, anytime we get over 50 feet, then I'll increase the side scan to 100 or 120, wherever we need it. Now these are grid lines, so we're looking for a vehicle that's roughly 15 to 20 feet in length, or 15 feet. So we're not going to fill an entire grid, and that's kind of how we figure out what our scale is. Now the top one is our down imaging, and this one really gives us our height. So if we go over an object and it's sticking up a couple feet, we're going to see that. Now these ones are pictures in time, so I can scroll back if I see an object of interest, and I can zoom in on it and be like, all right, what is this? And yeah, well, that's just a rock right there. Now with this one over here, this is our live scope. This is happening in real time. So if a fish swims by, you'll see it swim by in real time. Downside of this one, we cannot scroll back like we can in the picture in time. All right, we're gonna say that one's clear. Look at that. Right? Oh, you can't see that, look. I was going a little bit faster, so it's gonna skew it a little bit. But look at that right there. We'll go back over the top of it. Remember, you're looking for like a Nissan and Datsun, like the little sports cars with the long noses. That's what we're looking for. Just kind of identify on shore. What I like to do is pinpoint on shore for a landmark. Right there, I think it was just the way that the shoreline goes. Here, let me. So now that we ended up right over the top of it, what it is it's just the way that the land goes, and it gives a little bit of a shadow there. Same thing there, just the way that it kind of rolls off. So with that, I can confirm that that is not a car. Big old stump sticking out. Let me give you a quick overview of the map, where we've come from, where we're heading, what we have going on this one. So we ended up, this red trail all the way back here is where we came from. Way back there, well, not that far. Anyway, back here is where we started. Then, what we have going on, we're interested in this road. This gray line is the road on the other side that's next to the lake. But we have to come down here to the west side, and so you see our little boat here. We want to go to this boat ramp here, start there, and then there's no road here, so then we're gonna cut across into the cove here, and then snag the road along the lake all the way to the other side that we want to follow. So this is the road that he would take when he was trying to avoid the PD at night. We're 3,315 feet away from our destination. You can see it in front of you. So we got a log on the left. So this is the log, that's a log. Looks like an old dock down there. See that? Oh, just went down on the bottom of the screen. That's too small for a car. And we're only in 6 feet of water now. And I wouldn't expect the car, especially for that car, because it doesn't have much air in it. Think about the chamber of that car is so small as a two-seater that it would sink sooner than later. Real easy read though on the bottom of this. Yeah, so with them being gone for 20 years, that's what we have to look at also, is like, what would the terrain have been like back then? And that's why it was really nice to see that first boat ramp that popped up, because I didn't expect that and I didn't see it. And you could just kind of assume at times that the boat ramp that you're at has always been there. So that's why we definitely checked the first one. And then, you know, as you'll see later on today, parts of this road will have been caved in, that they've not reopened this road over the years. But 20 years ago, the road was open, and it was the road that we would take all the time. What we're now doing is we can't get to anything along the dam because there's all the buoys, but the road is also further away, you'll see there. So now what we're doing is we're heading into this little cove where the road right here meets up with the lake again. And so now we're gonna be scanning this entire roadway all along the lake for the next, I think it's, here, in fact, let's zoom out, I'll show you how far it is. But we're gonna be heading all the way up here to this other side, and we got to go in, out, and around, and through, and if it was a straight line, you're looking at 6.2 miles, so it's probably close to 12 to 13 miles for us today as we zigzag in and out. Well, probably not that, but maybe 10. Exciting, right, Cade? 10 miles? Huh? 10 miles? Yeah. We got a long ways to go today. That's the old road. Definitely not getting the RV in there. Like, you got tree branches down and everything. But a lot of places that you could come off, you know, like right there, and we're gonna see quite a few throughout the day. Watch this get back up in here, hit a big tree stump that we didn't see, destroy the motor, and we have to paddle out of here. There's tree stumps there. Yeah, a lot of moss in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, see, he could have come off here. There's gonna be so many places he could have come off today. There's so many tree stumps down here. Like, as soon as you, let me see that. As soon as you start hitting these, you get like really excited because they're like a great big shadow. Like, it's kind of like it's a car. And then it's like, oh, just another tree stump. The thing about this too, if he comes off of the road up here, he's not gonna go floating out that far because it's gonna kind of come down and crash in and then sink right away because it's not a straight shot. Tree stump, tree stump, tree stump. Those tree stumps. So for the last 2 miles, I mean, the road has been right along the lake. And then old sketchy bridge here. Railing's not even up on it. Huh. Almost looks like a car. Yeah, see right there. Like, what is that? Like, it's almost like a car pointing straight into it. See that? But I think it's just a tree. But I can go double check. It's like a tree trail. Yeah. Yeah, that's a tree there. Yeah, not a car. And plus there's a guardrail there, and I mean, guardrails don't mean anything, but look how short that guardrail is too. I know. I want to go up there, check it out. I know. It's nice and clear. You can probably see what it is that we're looking at down here. Right there. Yeah, it's round. It's not a car. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet wide. More like a pipe. you know, in a way, I'm actually surprised that we haven't found any car or truck, just because of how sketch I feel like this road is. And then I think once we hit this little cove right here, then we don't have any road for about a mile up around the corner. All right. Oh yeah. Wow, look at it here. So we're going back here to the road. Is where we're gonna go to.
Look at that church.
Wow. All right, so there's a corner right here. So the road comes down to a sharp turn right here. So if you're speeding right here, you could end up down in here. Hey, Dennis, you have a copy?
I got a copy.
Anyway, my projection, we still have another 2 to 3 hours at least on the water here.
Alright, I'm almost up at Beaver Bay.
Well, I hope that you find me a Nissan 200 so we can wrap this up today.
Yeah, now I gotta go back and scan all this stuff that I won't be.
All right, Kate, we're coming back up almost straight across from the RV where we started. So we've kind of done like half the lake is what we've done so far. This is where the slide was at. And so if you look up there, you can kind of see portions of the road that are still up there. So if by chance he was right near the shore, he'd be buried there, but I don't think it covered it that much because you can still see like a lot of these tree roots that are sticking up out of the ground here. So we will drop our cylinder back in and see what we come up with. 20 feet deep here. Oh, you have a picnic table up here. That's weird. See it? And a barbecue pit. Oh, there's something big and shiny. Holy, what is that? I'm gonna get back over that. Just seeing the way it popped up on live. All right, yeah, that's a log all day long. Were you calling us?
I wasn't calling anybody, but
Well, you have to hold the button down to keep talking.
there's a structure here at the old boat launch ramp, straight out from it, and it's just something to look at.
Are you talking about the one at Beaver Bay?
Yeah, I'm up by I think the Beaver Bay boat launch ramp, and there's a structure in the water that looks weird, and there's a kind of divot downstream from it.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, we'll keep it in mind and be sure to scan it when we get over there. Try hitting it at some different angles.
Yeah, I know. The current's kind of ripping here, so I don't know what I'm doing when I'm trying that, because I can get pulled over it so strangely. But I'll try.
All right, well, do be careful in current, because if it catches you sideways, you can flip it.
It's not that bad a current. It's just, keeping the boat in control and seeing where I'm at.
I mean, when you first said it, you kind of led me to believe that, it was ripping and you weren't able to handle it. I mean, now you can handle it, so I don't know. What is it, Matt?
Operator, not a small boat operator.
If you look to your left, you should have eyes on us.
Had eyes on you for a long time. I saw you guys before you came around the point.
How could you see us before we come around the point? Because we'd be on the other side of the point, and then you wouldn't be able to see us. So it doesn't make sense, Matt.
Yeah, you spotted one of my communication errors, didn't you?
So the rest of the road up here, actually, the river or the lake is down, so we're not going to be able to go up there anymore. But if you look straight behind you, Cade, there's a boat ramp over there. I think that's where Matt was at. I don't know if that was Beaver Bay there or not, or Beaver Cove or Beaver Bay. So let's go check that out. The reason why we're only searching this lake today is because we were so focused on this road over here that was against the lake that the family really wanted that one clear. Plus, when Matt and I had came before, we went up to Swift Reservoir where it was so low that where the boat ramp was at, the river was running through there, so it was like just a few feet. So no vehicle there, and there was nowhere else as far as roads along there. And then we came down below the dam, and below the dam was where that canal was at that I was mentioning this morning that Pacific Power is in control of. We had permission from a friend of Amanda's that worked for them, but then the higher up said, oh no, you can't be in there because I guess that the dam can open without warning, is what they say. And it was like, oh, it's gonna flush you down. Well, we're in a boat, we have a motor, it's not gonna flush us down. And so while we scanned just west of the bridge, saw like a great big boulder, looked like a car for a moment, but it was not. We identified it as a rock. And then we made it to the east side of the bridge. And when we started up probably about 100 yards, that's when they came and they're like, get out of there now. They didn't yell at us, they were nice about it. We're like, you need to get out of there now. I'm like, just give me like 3 or 4 more minutes. I said, I can finish scanning this right here. They're like, no, absolutely not. We cannot let you. And so for that reason, I've not cleared it. But then there's the rumor of, was the canal drained for 2 years prior to or shortly after, Uncle Mikey had gone missing? We don't have those details. Hey, if you have a service with Byron, will you let him know? There's not going to be anywhere up here for us to pull out, so we'll end up coming back down there with you. So Matt said that there was an object over here off the boat ramp, so we're gonna check this for him. Oh yeah, there's something there. Like it's, don't know, it's too big, it's not a car. But it could have like a bunch of debris up against it, so we'll double check it. But way too long. And I also don't think it's tall enough. I think we have some buoys up there that are blocking the way, and it almost looks like we have like more of a raging river up there. We'll have to see how far up there we can actually make it. This actually has the record of last time I was here. Right there, there's where that rock was at that we thought was a car. There's the bridge, and then we started to go here, and then they made us pull out, and I wanted to finish scanning up to here is what we ended up missing. And then right now, that's the Swift Canal, and then it comes down and feeds into right here underneath the road. That's where all of that's at up there, where those buoys are at that we're heading to right now. So I think this is really as far as we're going to be able to go. So let's go back and double check that boat ramp. Right there where that big concrete is at, that's where the Swift Canal is at. To the right is the Lewis River, and then you got some other creek coming into it right here. That's really blue water too. Look at how it connects there. And this is where on the road up above is actually locked. So this whole campground is closed. The boat ramp's closed, you can't get to it. So a car goes in there with the river floating. I would say probably another 100 yards. Is going to be the maximum distance. All right, so that clears that. So Cougar Camp here, we're not getting to because it's where those trees are at over there, and the lake is down so far that that's all dried up. So no Cougar Camp access. So here's the other side of Cougar Camp. You're going to see a boat ramp way over there, but you have a creek that's like 15 feet up from here that's coming through there, so there's no car in this area either. Yeah, you can see the bottom right here. Oh my goodness, what a day out there. We made our way like all the way around the lake, so anywhere where a vehicle may have possibly gone in. We found this boat ramp over here that we did not know about. So we don't know how long this one has been here, but we searched that one. Nothing there. Again, it got down to 70 feet real quick. We ended up down by the dam to the other boat ramp. Yeah. And then everything under the bridge, the old bridge that's down there, and then everything along here, and there's just nothing. I mean, we've lots of rocks, as well as lots of the tree stumps. But I'm 99.9% sure that his vehicle did not go off that road, and it's not at any of these boat ramps. We also checked the other boat ramp that was up here to the closer to the dam portion, or not the dam, but the little spillway area.
Yeah.
So we've done what we can on this one, and what it comes down to now is we're now going to bring awareness to this. We're going to put the word out to anybody that's in the area that it's not just see if we miss something here and yell. If you happen to be a fisherman or you have sonar, somebody that's up here in here, not just Yale Reservoir, but also Swift Reservoir and Merwin, which is just to the west of here. So that's kind of where we're at right now, unless you can think of something else that, hey, Jared Hortz.
So the structure at Beaver Bay that they thought they went over, was that cleared?
That's the one that Matt was talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what that one was is it was a really longer debris pile, is what it was. And so like no vehicle, if there's a vehicle in there, I mean, it's so tied up, but it's more like these reeds and everything that's really piled up in there.
Right.
And it's really wide, and I think it's like 50 feet long. So it wasn't the size of a car. So it wasn't anything that caused me any concern that, hey, we need to focus in on it.
Okay.
We were hopeful. I mean, there was a lot of areas over there, especially where the road and the slide had taken place, that everything was really close over there, especially when you got over here further on the northeast side over here, where you have the big rock boulders that come around, and some of them come around the corner. I'm like, oh, you could really come off the corner there. And
Yeah.
so every time we saw a shadow or a shape, it's like we're so hopeful. We did a few that we had to turn around on, didn't find them though. So
We appreciate it.
yeah,
Thank you guys.
absolutely.